Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United of the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. New life for Sutton United. Sutton United, the National League, are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello, welcome to the Sutton United Talk Time podcast. It's the Sunday service, and yes, that was Craig Dundas at the start of that intro saying, "Hey, it's the podcast guy," because when he said it to me, I begged him and pleaded to send him the sound file. Literally, all I had to say was, "It'll annoy a lot of people, Craig. Can you send it to me?" And here it is. So, club legend saying, "Hey, it's the podcast guy. I should retire, but I'm not going to, just in case I can get some more." Obviously live on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. So if I can remember, I'll check in the comments. Joining me again today is Paul Darby. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Mike. All right.
Very well, thank you. And joining us for the first time is David Mears. Hello, David. How are you?
Hi, Mike.
And I'm not sure if you've been listening, David, but you do know there's a little song for the debut podcasters. Yeah, you got to sing something for us.
Oh.
No, David, just tell us a little bit about yourself. You did kind of in your message to me tell me a little bit of your Sutton history, but obviously people can't see that. So just give us a little brief bit about yourself and who are you? Basically.
Sure. Who am I? Okay, so I was born in Carshalton at the War Memorial Hospital, which I think no longer exists. London Borough of Sutton, Barrett Hedges School, Wallington Boys School. And made a very brief appearance myself. I think I was around 8 or 9 at Gandy Green Lane. The pitch was divided into 4. I can't quite remember what the competition was, but at the time it was my big claim to fame that I did play at Gandy Green Lane, albeit not on the full pitch and albeit not with the crowd. But apart from that, I'm still dining out on that story now. It's as close as I got to footballing glory myself. So relationship with Sutton United goes back a long way. Bit on and off over the years. I've many years ago moved out to Madrid for various reasons, and I've been following them from afar, as well as supporting here Atlético Madrid. And but obviously very excited over the last few years to see the development of the club. It's been fantastic to watch. I get back as often as I can to see the games. I was at Wembley last week, and I've been at a few games this season as well. My main period of going, I don't know if you might remember this, Mike, my main period of going a lot to Gandy Green Lane was back in the sort of early 1990s when there was a team populated by some of the names I remember, I don't know if you do, would be the Golly brothers, John Rains, Tony Rains, Matt Hanlon, there was Dominic Feltham, Jimmy Dack, I remember. Yeah. Being the name at the time. So there was a period where I went quite a lot. And that would have been, I think, 91-ish, 92-ish, that kind of time. And since then, obviously less.
Okay. I was going to say, it sounds like you've left out the wonderful Sir Lenny Dennis, but he might have just left at that point.
No, I remember him definitely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And Paul McKinnon, of course.
Yeah. And Effin came a little while after that.
Yeah, Effin and Cook. I remember the big day when he got signed by, was it Norwich?
Norwich, yeah.
Was it Norwich? Yeah.
So all a bit weird at the time, but now it's like, hey, whatever.
Yeah. And then Paul Rogers as well hit the big time, didn't he, after?
He did. Great conversation about Paul Rogers with the guy from the Wigan podcast because he won Wigan this trophy, or not this trophy, the Papa John's, whatever it was called at the time. Great conversation. I'm not sure if I caught all of that on camera because we spoke for ages. We promised each other like 10 minutes and then ended up speaking for nearly an hour. But yeah, you go back to sort of a similar era to lots of people. is a club that everyone kind of just. I know, Paul, yours is only a few years, but you can just tell from everyone that you've been on with that it's kind of like sucked you in, and you're here now. We've got you. You're not being let go. But on to very quickly. Yesterday, there's not a huge amount to talk about. It's a scrappy game. I mean, yeah. Anyone got any thoughts on the game? Paul, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. As you said, it was a scrappy game, wasn't it? But fantastic 3 points, wasn't it? It was all about those 3 points really at the end of it, wasn't it? I mean, Orient were 5th in the form guide, I think, something like that. They had the new manager bump, didn't they? We had that 4-1 early in the season and the 2-1 before that. Plus the Papa John's blues, it was. I got to the ground about half hour before, and there was just a murmur around the ground. I think it was like a therapy session for everyone. Everyone was still just talking about the game. It would have been all right if it was like 2-0 or 3-0, wouldn't it? We've all moved, but we were so close to it, and you could tell people were still getting over it a little bit. And I thought Matt's pre-game as well, he still sounded pretty gutted and disappointed about it, didn't he? And I wonder what I hadn't spoken to the players or seen the players, but I assume they were pretty much themselves like that as well. So to get themselves up for it, I thought, I know they're pros, but to get themselves up for it and to grind that win out and get 3 points, I thought was great. It was tricky conditions, the wind. I mean, is it always windy up there? I don't know. We always say that, don't we? Tricky conditions, windy. Yeah. We always say that, don't we? But I mean, absolutely owned them in the first 35. When the tempo and that press was great. A couple of good chances. Harry's shot and of course the goal. Kizzy's on fire, isn't he? And they moved the ball about a bit quicker in the second half, I thought. But they didn't create too much, did they? Their shots were outside the box. Paul Smith, their number 7, looked as though he might be dangerous. He's been on form lately, but we closed him down, and he didn't have many shots. I think he had 1 shot, and we looked a bit tired at the end, but we battled through it. And there's some good game at the end there with 7 minutes. Well, it was 4 minutes added on. Ended up 7 minutes. So and with Goodliff out and Randall out, everyone just stepped up again, didn't they? So can't speak highly enough of them for just dragging them back out from that Papa John's and getting the 3 points. So we're back in it. We're still in it, aren't we?
Absolutely. Just one little thing there. As you know, I went big time this week, and I went for the lunch ahead of time. I'll drop that in. Matt was there, and he was gutted. But what he actually said is the players were off on Monday. He gave them an extra day off on Tuesday. He had them back in on Wednesday, and he said, I didn't know what I was going to say to them, and they actually brought me up. They were the ones going, right, come on, let's crack on now. It's gone now. So I think the players were the ones dragging him. I don't know, David, what were your thoughts? I know you had a slightly different view to us from the warmth of your living room.
Exactly. Well, I tuned in. I paid my £11 and tuned in on iFollow, which I have to say, by the way, I think is a great service. I mean, it's for those of us who can't get to the game, wherever, even you might be ill or got COVID, or in my case, I'm living in Madrid. But it's a fantastic thing to be able to do, to tune in and see the games. I pretty much agree with everything that you just said, actually, Paul. Not much more to add. I thought they did very well, and it is a bit. It's a bit attritional. It was a bit attritional, really. I mean, the second half, we definitely were under the cosh a little bit, but they got through it. And it's all the usual football cliches apply. That it was 3 points ultimately, which is the name of the game, is winning at this stage. And I thought they did a great job, really. It's fantastic, really. I'm just so impressed by this group of players. They just seem to have a great team ethic and a work ethic, and considering where we've come from, it's all quite amazing. And then the week prior to that, because I was still feeling a bit gloomy myself after the minute 96 at Wembley. I don't know about you guys, but it took me a few. I'm nowhere near doing what they're doing, but I felt a bit down for a while.
I've kind of taken the opinion. I can't remember who said it, but on one of the feeds somewhere, someone had said if they had equalised in the 77th minute, we would have accepted it a lot more than the 76th minute, because we would have kind of gone, all right, fair enough, that's fine. But because we were like literally there, about to hold it, that's why it hurt so much. But I think we won sort of. We didn't play badly. We've impressed a few people, and we didn't want the fairy tale to have that ending. We'll wait for another 9 games to get another ending where we win at Wembley again.
I mean, I think had it been 2-2 after 80 minutes, we would have all thought that was fair enough. And then in extra time, they were clearly a bit stronger and a bit fitter and deserved to win ultimately. So no complaints. And we had a wonderful day out, and it was a fantastic achievement in itself, I think. So I think it's important not to forget that, really, because winning or losing, it's still, if you go back to the start of the season, and if you'd said we're going to be more or less in playoff places at this stage of the season, and we will have played a Wembley final, no one would have really believed that, I don't think, in all honesty. Would you?
I would have possibly suggested you went for a lie down because that is just a ridiculous thing to suggest. And then, you do kind of walk away from games thinking, oh, I'm gutted. And then, actually, do you know what? Yeah. That's a bit silly because where we expected to be. But we do move on. Craig has joined us to talk about the Mansfield game. Before I bring Craig in, I will just say a couple of quick things before he has the right to reply. Craig has it's his fault that this format is as it is. I am almost like the Aldi Colin the Caterpillar, or Cuthbert the Caterpillar to his Colin the Caterpillar, because Craig and I had a chat before he came on before, and he gave me some really, really good pointers. And he does the Sunday sermon and I do the Sunday service. So bringing in the original and a very good podcaster and broadcaster from Mansfield Matters is Craig Priest. Hello, Craig. How are you?
Hi, guys. I must remind you to send me the invoice for that excellent intro there. But it's really good to see you guys absolutely smashing it, and it's very weird actually to see this software from the other side of it, because I'm used to seeing the view that you see. So it's quite weird, but good to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what, Craig? I'm so useless at this. I keep forgetting about the chat, and I've got Alan Cox who's jumped in on Facebook saying it was a very physical game and was chatting to the bar, and he said the boys are all still recovering. So sorry, Alan, and thank you. I kept forgetting the chat again. But you guys have had a bit of a good run since we beat you and dispatched you back in the depths of winter.
Yeah, it's been a strange one. I mean, for me personally as well, it's been a whirlwind then, because actually that game was the first where I was actually back on the radio being a commentator for the local commercial station at the very last minute. So I've got personally fond memories of that night. But since then, I don't know whether Nigel Clough will say, actually, no, it's you, Craig, that's done it. But no, it's been good. We had a fantastic run. We had a really good run of form at home, and the run of home games which we had sort of early on in that sort of time, November, December time, really contributed to that. We've broken a club record, 11 consecutive wins in Sky Bet League 2 on home soil as well. So that's really helped us out. And I would say we've been on a good run, but actually of late we have sort of started to slip off a little bit as well. We ended up losing at Tranmere in the very last minute, so I can sympathise with you guys in terms of the Papa John's final and how things ended for you there. We then lost at Port Vale, which is a result at the minute which is sort of costing us, because they're 3 points in front and with a much superior goal difference. We've had a few stutters here, there and everywhere. We've lost our sort of leading goal scorer at the minute as well, Reece Oates, or injury. So it's all setting up, though, to be a nice final end of the season. Nothing ever goes well in Sky Bet League 2. You can just see how tight it is. I mean, I look at you guys sort of, you were really, really flying at the start of the season. You top 3, and it was looking like you were going to go up in on the automatic. Sort of dropped off with the cup run and everything, but you're still well within the race, because it is literally that tight. One set of results on Saturday afternoon can absolutely change the whole picture of the League 2 standing. So it's really exciting as a broadcaster and as a fan more than anything else to be involved in it and see how it unfolds.
Yeah, it's completely insane, and the amount of teams that have to play each other. Is quite good for us. I know Port Vale. Yeah, it was yesterday, wasn't it? They got that late winner.
Yeah, very frustrating. Although, I think Oldham had pulled it back twice as well, and Oldham aren't actually a bad side. We went there and beat them, but they should have beat us. To be fair, we weren't great. They're not a bad side, and out of anyone, I'd probably back them to probably stay up. But Scunthorpe, have you got Scunthorpe yet to play yet?
No.
No.
Oh well, I mean, managers will come out and say, "Oh, it's not a given that you get 3 points." But honestly, it is, because they play. The team is pretty much made up of 14-year-olds at the minute. It's a sorry state that they're in, and if we'd have had 3 or 4 more players that were fit yesterday, we could have probably got double figures. It's alarming to see what state they're in. To be fair,
and goal difference could be important, couldn't it?
Yeah, it really could. Yeah, and that's why I was a little bit frustrated that we only got 4 yesterday, and and not as many, because you look at the difference between us and Port Vale goal difference wise, actually, and that swing could be absolutely critical, as you say.
Yeah, we beat them 4-1. I think it was at home. I think Harry scored an own goal. I think that's the match. It
was the match. Yeah.
But they were woeful. I rarely say that about other teams because it's not really my business.
Me too.
But they were shocking, and I think Gabrielle had put out a thing. Well, what's the game? What do you think of the game today? And I said, I think Scunthorpe fans deserve a medal for following that team up and down the country, because they were awful.
Yeah, they let the frustrations go a little bit yesterday. We had our game yesterday actually had everything. Halfway through the second half, we were 4-0 up. They started launching tennis balls onto the pitch, which was quite funny. Then there was as the stewards were distracted collecting them all up, there was a pitch invasion from their fans. They managed to get them off the pitch eventually after probably about 5 or 6 minutes. We then went down the other end, and Danny Johnson, our striker, who used to play for Leyton Orient, has barely been in the team of late, had a really golden chance to get a 5th and put himself in the manager's thoughts, fired it into the side net, and you would not believe the string between the top corner of the net and the stanchion. He snaps the string so that it comes down, so the groundsmaster come on, and it takes another 10 minutes for it to get fixed. I didn't get home till midnight. It's only an hour down the road.
Well, we had an upset because they stuck up 4 minutes of added time. We were like, well, at least it's not 7. And then there was an injury, and we're all sitting there going, it's going to be 7. It's going to be 7. It's going to be 7 minutes. But what are your thoughts, guys, ahead of the game?
I've got, if you allow me a question for Craig, I've got how's the stadiums these days at Mansfield? Because I've got a memory from the late 1980s. I went to see Mansfield Town play Wimbledon. I think you look quite young, Craig. You might not have been born.
Correct.
And I do remember Dave Besant being in goal for Wimbledon. So it must have been late 1980s. And I remember it being a particularly drafty terrace at your stadium.
Well, you'll be pleased to hear that the terrace is now gone. It is now an all-seater bar for the stand on the far side Bishop Street, which is condemned. It's not used anymore. It's just got the gantry there for the cameras. Right. But it's seated each side behind the goal. But if you're thinking that stopped the draft, no, it's the old owner, whose name I will not use because I feel sick and all Mansfield fans feel horrible when it's used. When we redeveloped the ground in the sort of late 90s, early noughties, had the opportunity to buy some land which was then behind it. It's now got a retail park on it with various pet shops, etc. We had the opportunity to buy that sort of land and turn it around a little bit so the ground would get sun. No, what we did, we just whacked the massive main stand up in the only bit where the sun always shines. So that is why our pitch on one side in front of the main stand never gets any sun to it and always cuts up. So it's still the coldest place other than the Oldham away end in League Two by a country mile, even on a hot summer's day. So bring your coats, lads.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, isn't it? I think Mansfield have lost three at home, same as us, and I think there's only one other team who lost less than that in the league. So which made that Orient result even more important, didn't it? Because I think while we was having a look at those 7 games, this was the one you'd thought, well, if we get a point out of this one, it'll be a bonus. Actually, this is probably the most difficult one we've got left on the list, especially as loads of teams won yesterday as well, didn't they? Exeter, well, Salford, I think, a couple of others, and plenty of others got a point. So those 3 points against Orient, I think, would definitely put us on the way. But this is out of all the games, this is the one where you think this is a tough gig. This one, I think. Our injuries are, we've got the team back. A lot of those, what was it, a month ago? We had 10 players out. Now I think, we might have 1 or 2 out, and and that win will give them a bolster. So
that's a very similar story to us at the start of the campaign, where we were sort of struggling. We went on a 14-game run without a win. We were missing our best player, Stephen Quinn, who's about 49 and still running like around a 6-year-old. He's 36, but he runs around like he's a child. He's got energy and enthusiasm to burn. he was suspended for 6 games. We had James Perch missing, experienced defender, through a injury which we thought would end his career, but he's actually now back fit and playing, which is great to see. But those little factors, when you miss 1 or 2 players, really start to hinder you and go into. That's why I think you spoke about our home form there. You guys were sort of looking at it and thinking that's going to be the hard one. Like I said earlier, we've won 11 on the spin in League Two. It's a new club record. The previous one was 10 set in the early 1940s, which is just ridiculous. And the only thing sort of playing in our advantages we look at the running at the end of the season is the fact that thanks to a certain Steve Evans and his COVID pulling techniques for the Stevenage game, it's given us that all-important game in hand. But it also means that 3 of our last 4 games of the season are actually at home. All right, we've got Forest Green to play with, of course, the league leaders on the final game of the season. But looking at the way they're going, they should be signed, sealed and delivered by then anyway. But having 3 of the last 4 games at home of the season plays into our hands really, really well. And our home form is incredible. Our home support is great as well. So it'd be an interesting one to see how it plays out. And it'd be interesting to see how teams sort of set up against us, because we don't have any fear at home anymore. We had that at the start of the season, and we certainly don't now. We don't let teams play. We make it as uncomfortable as we can for them. So be an interesting one to see how it unfolds. And I guess it all depends on who you guys have got on the Monday as well. We've got a trip up to Carlisle, so it's quite a lengthy one for us. So Nigel Clough will sort of be looking to get that one done on about the hour mark and sort of start resting legs a little bit. So it'd be interesting to see what you've got on the Monday as well.
We've got Newport at home. So
so you've got a very tough Easter weekend then, haven't you?
We've got the 2 toughest games over that weekend. Before I bring David in to hear his thoughts, I just wanted to say, you've mentioned club record a couple of times. That's not going to impress us, because we've broken so many club records this season. It's every single thing we do is club record. That's
the beauty, though, isn't it, of when you're doing well in a season, because these things do happen. And you guys as supporters, because you couldn't really go last season because of COVID, like any of us, must be absolutely really loving it. I think that's a big reason why Mansfield's home form is what it is, because fans have missed going to home games, so they're piling in. And it's the same for fans up and down the country. And you guys, you got to Wembley, you're in and around the playoffs, you've been in the top 3, breaking all these records. Must be so good to see. And one thing I would say, though, and I sort of heard you talking about it backstage when I was waiting a little bit, was you guys as a club have got to get over this loss in the final, because it will come back to bite you. Because as a collective, it does create this whole thing of, oh, well, we've been there, it's weighing on our shoulders. You've done that. You've got to look at it as, oh, it's such a great achievement we've got there. We've been so unlucky, but now put all your energies into the last few games of the season, because if you don't, that's where you're going to trip yourselves up as a collective, because you're such a community club. I can really see you're much closer to what the players are. You're much closer as fans to the players than what other clubs like Mansfield, Newport, etc. are. So I think that as a collective, you guys really need to hit on the head and say, this is, we're going to give it a go now, and it is what it is.
In fairness, that is mostly us as fans, because I heard because it's all over social media, but after the match, we all went back to the club, and there was quite a few people, and I think it was 2:30 before people were going home on a Sunday night. 2:30. It was a good atmosphere. And it was like, what would have happened exactly if we had won that competition? But from 3 or 4 different people at the club, it was basically, this isn't it. This is the start. So it's all going to be a springboard. I think it's us lot that are going, oh man. The players are like, done. Move on. And they're knackered, poor little things. But it's because we've got a small squad. But I think they're over it already, and they're just looking forward to a return. David, I know you're from afar, but what do you think on that and the game?
I totally think. I mean, if, as we said earlier, if someone had offered this at the start of the season, we would have actually signed up for a Wembley final and win or lose. So I think it was a huge achievement just to get there. So I think we should be popping the champagne about that, and then thinking about the next few games, and that's about it really. Win or lose, really, it doesn't. I think it shouldn't matter very much. It was just a fantastic achievement. I have Mike, I've a question for Craig as well. May I?
Yeah.
So we're all in awe of our manager here, Matt Gray, Craig. So we absolutely think he's done an amazing job. As a matter of interest, what's it like having a superstar former Liverpool, Nottingham Forest player as a manager of a League Two club? Does it change everything?
Well, at least you didn't go with Brian Clough's son, which many others do. So that's a good start. No, I mean, when we was in a horrible position when Cloughy was appointed, we had Graham Coughlin before him, who had an horrendous start to the previous season, couldn't buy a win, didn't win at all. In his entire tenure as manager, got 4 wins, overhauled the squad, brought all these players in, and it looked like a good squad on paper. It just didn't click for him. And we were in such a negative place because it was the height of the pandemic, and as fans, we needed something to lift us. But we were in a really good position that there were so many managers out there that could come in and do a really good job. And everybody sort of looked at Nigel Clough and the job that he'd done at, Burton Albion in particular, but also behind the scenes at like the likes of Derby and Sheffield United, where he'd cleared a big wage budget, got a good squad that are playing for each other, and that's what we wanted him to do. And we brought him in, and the excitement levels were there, but we knew it'd be a long process. And I think we still think that now. And one thing he's been very good at doing is keeping a lid on things and keeping a lid on our expectations, because we've been bitten by it before. I mean, only 2 or 3 seasons ago, Mansfield were going well all season, on the final day of the season needed just a point to go up at MK Dons, and we threw it away, and then we lost in the playoffs, and we're still here. And Nigel Clough is well aware of that. He's well aware of the history. And at the start of the season, he came in and he was asked, what's his ambitions for this campaign? And he said, we're going to try and win promotion. And his emphasis was on the word try. And everybody's brought into that. If we don't do it this year, then we'll go again next year and just pick ourselves up. And he's really eased that, and he's got everybody brought into it. And I think a lot of fans are just enjoying the ride. They like having the name there. They like having that sort of prestige which brings with it. But he's very humble. He's very switched on. And other than a lot of managers who, have got this big reputation of promotion winners, prime example was probably 6-7 seasons ago now, when Steve Evans was our manager. And we're talking Steve Evans when he was still a success. So every club that he'd been at before, he'd got promotion with, and it was almost guaranteed that Mansfield were going to get promotion. That sort of helps to galvanise the club a little bit. It got the fans in, it got us sort of bouncing, got us playing really, really well, and really lifted the expectation levels through the roof. And sort of since then, since he walked out on us and left, it's not been great, but those expectation levels have stayed up there, and that's been our downfall. Clough comes in and completely, lowers them and sort of makes it more of a realism. And I think, like you guys with your manager, you brought into his ethos, you brought into his work ethic, and even when things aren't going great, that you still support him, and that's the key highlight. I mentioned earlier when we had the 14-game spell without a win, any other club up and down the country is screaming for the manager to get sacked. And all right, there's a percentage of Stags fans that were like that, but we're talking less than 5% of fans that are doing that, and that's crazy to think. And it just shows that if you've got that support from the fan base, win, lose or draw, when things aren't going your way, when things are going your way, it's even better. So I think in terms of looking at 2 football clubs, we're 2 football clubs with a fan base who fully believes in the manager and fully believes that if it's not this season, while we all hope it is, that next season just wets the whistle and wets the appetite for an even better season to come. Yeah,
I mean, Matt's very similar with he keeps saying the highs aren't too high and the lows aren't too low. He's totally bought into it, and we can do no wrong as far as we're concerned. I think I did very well when I had him on. I didn't just sit there going, I love you, every single question. But I got him to come on again, so there's always that chance. Sorry, this was something I completely forgot earlier. And just wrapping up, obviously, I think from our point of view, we'd take a draw quite quickly. We'd happily take it now. Craig, what would you take if someone said now you're going to draw? Have it?
No. Hand on heart. I mean, I'm looking at where we are in the table and looking at thinking about our final run in. If Mansfield finish in the playoffs, we will not go up. I'll say that now. If we finish in the playoffs, there's not a chance that we will go up. I'd love to see that proved wrong, but I just don't think we will. If Mansfield want to be successful, we have to finish in that top 3, and we're good enough to do that. We've got enough about us in the squad, and that comes from the home fall. If it was the reverse, had we played you at home earlier in the season, we were coming down to you on Good Friday, I'd 100% snap your hands off right now for a draw. But at home, with 6-7 games of the season to go, we can't afford to be taking draws on home soil. We've got to go out and win. So, I wish you guys all the best and hope that you enjoy your day, apart from the 90 minutes. So, we've got to win. Otherwise, it's going to really knock our fans' confidence, and I think that'll be the end of our season. So we've just got to keep winning. But I wish you all the best.
It's usually 97 minutes, to be honest.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Stop.
Please
Right,
no more.
so-
I've had enough.
Yeah. So, as professional as always, guys, I forgot to ask you for your player of the day nominations. We were talking about yesterday's game.
This format's going really well for you, isn't it? I mean, when you said at the start that you really do emulate Mansfield Matters, you're not wrong, because mine's all over the place anyway.
I'm like this. I go all over.
Oh yeah.
I
Tangent central. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like it. I mean, I could throw another spanner in the works for you if you want, because
Give it a minute.
we've got to talk.
While I've remembered this, let me do this.
All right,
then you can do it. Otherwise,
right.
I'll forget this again. So, Paul, go on. Who do you reckon?
Player of the match.
Yeah, player of the day.
But
It's got to rhyme with pod. Player of day.
Sorry.
It's the whole point of it.
I mean, I thought.
Huh? It's the whole point.
You can't. I couldn't look further than Kizzy. Well, actually, all the back four really, but I'd go with Mr. Kizzy on that one.
Go on, David. Who do you reckon?
This is very boring. This is bad for the podcast, but I totally agree with you. I thought Joe Keys was fantastic, and he scored a goal. So
Yeah,
they all were. They all were. That's all it is. I think you got. It sounds a bit political of me to say this, but I think you can't really pick out one. It's not fair. You maybe need to have a new section in the podcast, which is best 5 of the day or something.
Well, this is why I didn't do it at Wembley. I was like, no, I'm not doing a player of the day for that one. That's not fair.
No, that just wouldn't be fair.
The trouble with Joe is he's great. He's a wonderful fullback. He scores lots of goals, but he has got that gift of the clamps. So it's a bit. I'm not sure. But yeah, Joe Kizzy, I won't even bother doing a nomination thing today because it'll be Joe.
I'll vote for Alistair Smith. Did he play? Is he playing?
He only came on. He's just come back from injury, so that's bad news for you. He's been injured for ages and ages, and yesterday he came on for 15, 20 minutes, something like that.
I like Ali. Ali's a really good lad as well off the pitch, and I've got a lot of time for him. Obviously, he was at Mansfield when he was younger, and he's a brilliant lad. So I wish him all the best. But I'll vote for him just to mess up your system.
That's fine. But he came on for a little bit, and it was like, oh, he's back. So he was a very good player. He kind of got chucked in because we suffered. I think I said this to you last time. We had a few injuries, and he kind of was brought on a little bit earlier than maybe we wanted to be bringing him for the season. And he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he was for a stage keeping out Harry Buteman, who as Matt was saying at the time in his interviews, this is a player who's done wonders for me the whole time I've been here, and I've got this young kid keeping him outside. But yeah, he was excellent. On the managers, I was thinking, and I did mention this to Matt and a couple others. I looked it up a few weeks ago. Because I just can't get this whole sacking of managers so quickly. I know you were talking about sticking by him. And a few weeks ago, Matt was the 17th longest serving EFL manager, and he's been in the job for not 3 years yet.
That's crazy. So crazy, isn't it?
Insane. How can you expect a manager to come? I mean, for me, it's great news because I was pointing it out to him as if to say, you just want to stay here. You don't want to keep moving around. Just stay in Sutton and we'll look after you forever. But how can you expect a manager to build anything?
That's the problem. Time? And you look at Forest Green for a prime example. They're probably the ones who stuck with it for a while. I mean, they had Mark Cooper for years, and were always in and about it, and decided that a change was needed in the summer. And to be fair, the change has worked, and they're doing really, really well. Other sides don't sort of get that, and it's one of those where when you've got a squad of players, I mean. I was speaking actually to a couple. At the moment, we're doing a series. It's 20 years since we last won promotion from within the Football League. And I'm doing a series with one of the old players. And I actually had the promotion winning manager on commentary with me yesterday. And we were talking about how it's changed. And then his squad, he'd brought through as a youth team from the mid-90s. And he'd carried them all the way through for 5 or 6 years. And now you wouldn't get that at all. And it's exactly how Ali Smith dropped out of Mansfield's system, because he'd come in with one manager, but by the time he'd matured enough to be able to have a first team slot, we've had 2 different managers. So he's not in the thoughts. But had it been the original manager who had brought him into the youth team and watched him and developed him, he would have got a shot, because it's that whole journey process. And you're absolutely spot on. You don't get anywhere by changing a manager after 6 months if it's not going right. There are some occasions where you do have to change it because it may cost you your league status. Mansfield and Graham Coughlin being the prime one. It was a wrong appointment. The owners held their hands up and knew it, and they knew they had to get it right with the next appointment, and did with Nigel Clough. But there are so many other clubs that you look at. It was a few seasons ago that went through. Well, yeah, Notts County were a prime example. They were flying, but got off to a really bad start. Brought in Harry Kuehl. What did he stay there for? About 6-7 games, and then sacked him and brought somebody else in, and then ended up getting relegated. I mean, great decision by their board. And then there was a couple of other clubs as well. Crawley did it a few times. Oldham seems to do it every now and again.
Colchester have run the 3rd or 4th this season.
Yeah, it just beggars belief. And you think as a club as well, as a bit from a business perspective, not from a fan's perspective, when you bring those managers in on contracts, they want their own squad of players, so they want a transfer window. They then want assurances to bring in their own backroom staff, which means then sacking off 3 or 4 others. And then when they eventually get sacked, not only are you paying off a 3 or 4 season contract for one person, you're actually doing the same for 3 or 4. So it's no wonder that clubs end up in debt and that clubs end up struggling financially when they don't do it. And all because you're not getting a good couple of results. And it really, really does make me think actually about Mansfield's situation this season and how patient David Sharp, our CEO, was with Nigel Clough. Because if he'd have sacked him then, we would not have had the response that we wanted. We'd probably be out of the mess. We'd probably be maybe 19th or 20th, but that's not where we want to be. Just a little bit of faith goes a long, long way. And I just hope, from your guys' sake, that your manager sticks with you as a club and doesn't sort of outgrow it a little bit. Because I think he's got a nice little project there, which he's built up over the years and is really, really respected. And I think the name Sutton United is really, really growing early doors as a Football League team, which is credit to the work he's done. A lot of people wrote you guys off when you came up and said, oh, they're that oddity which has won the conference, they'll go straight back down. But, there's so many other clubs that people have said that about that are now established in the Football League even higher. You look at Accrington, prime example, other clubs like that who people write off for having this small stature, but they show faith in the manager, they build a project and it goes well for them. So fingers crossed that he doesn't go, oh, there's some nice money there, I might go to a League One club and gamble.
I don't think he will.
Doesn't seem that sort of guy from what I've watched.
He kind of... there is one club, he did say, if they came calling, it's like, see ya. But that was Tottenham, so we've got a year or two before they come down.
Yeah, the levels there.
Before they come down to us, I think we're all right. But, yeah, I think we've covered quite a lot there. Anything else you wanted to add, Paul?
No. All good, mate. No.
Excellent. And I know you were giving me some stick for having the lunch, but then I did notice that you were asking about the stand transfer yourself. So you were...
My son wasn't with me yesterday, so I thought I might have a cheeky upgrade and go and sit in the main stands. But those old days where you could throw someone a few quid with a bucket, they're gone.
It all looks wrong from that angle. The whole pitch looks up back to front. It's like being at a away game. I tried it today. I'll come back to that. I tried it today. It's just all wrong. David, anything you wanted to add?
No, not really, Mike. It's been great fun.
Excellent. Well, I've got your email now, so you're stuck. You'll be on it again, so don't worry. As Craig knows, because he's rapidly changing his email.
That's very true. Before you kick me out, can I just bring up one thing?
Yeah, obviously, of course you
can. There's a nice little podcast community which really comes up in the lower leagues, which is great. And I was on Northampton's one the other week. I'm sure you've been on it as well.
Yeah. And, I had him on mine.
Oh yeah, they're great guys. They're great guys there, and they do a really good job. And obviously, since the reverse fixture, I've been doing commentary for the local radio station. I was actually given a bit of a dare, a bit of a bet that I wouldn't ask the players what the favourite biscuit is. So obviously I took it on, and I've got a nice little bit of income from it, which we now give to charity, which is great. But I brought this up on the Northampton podcast, and their listeners seem to really enjoy it. It then sort of got spread around Twitter. You weighed in on the debate, so I can't come on here and not ask you guys, what's your favourite biscuit?
Go on, you guys go first, because I've got an answer to this, which I've already given.
Off the top of my head, probably a hobnob.
Are we talking normal or chocolate? Because, you know.
Oh, yeah, no, fair point. Yeah, I'd go chocolate. Yeah, chocolate hobnob.
David's in Madrid.
I can be very specific.
Go on.
So I like the Co-op gluten-free chocolate orange biscuits.
That's niche. It's
a niche. They have a very select audience, and I don't even know. I should share it with you because there might be a run on them now.
Strangely enough, that's not the nichest that I've had either. To be fair,
Is it not?
Ollie Clark, our captain, because he's from Bristol, loves a Viennese finger. So that was the nichest one that I've had so far.
That is quite sophisticated, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I said that the malted milk chocolate only because you don't get them very often. But then I had to confess, I'm not. The camera's at this angle for a very good reason. The belly will tell you that there's no specific favourite biscuit. To be fair, whatever the biscuits are, I'll have them. I don't care. But yeah, no. British people do get very, very, very angered about biscuits and crisps. Try it with crisps as well. That's one.
That's next season's. I think I'm holding back for that for that one next season.
But yeah, on what I was going to say about today is was it the ladies' game? Great game. There's lots and lots of extra people there that haven't been there before. Helped by a 4-0 win, which is obviously always great. I did catch one of the goals with some of the worst camera work ever. I've put it on Twitter if you want to see it. But what I wanted to say is, David, you mentioned your claim to fame about getting onto the pitch when you're an 8-year-old. I'm going to just say it. My 4-year-old daughter was at her 4th match. That's 4 matches. And they asked her to lead them out. So she got out onto Gander Green Lane. I've been going for 33 years, and not once have I been on that damn pitch.
You've met Tim Vine, so you know who's the real winner.
No, I'm not having this. I'm sulking all day. I'm like, this is outrageous.
It might be they spotted some talent in your daughter.
Yeah, talent to have a sulk about it. But yeah, I thought that was very funny, and it was very nice. So Jazz, if you are listening, thank you very much for asking her. She was delighted. But yeah, if anyone is still on the fence, most Sundays, just pop. Well, not most Sundays, obviously there's home and away fixtures, but pop down, support the girls. They are actually top of the table. There's only a few games left of the season. Could get promotion, and they really, really do appreciate the support. It's a real old school feel. So David, you'd know this a bit more when the crowds were a little bit less. You could do that whole walk around business, just chat to whoever you like at different parts of the ground. And it is really, really, really good fun, and lots of goals as well. As I say, it's 4-0. I'm only taking 30% credit because it was huff and puff for 40 minutes. And then I moved to the correct, proper spot to watch football from. And we scored 3 goals before half time. So I'm going to take a little bit of credit away from my 4-year-old child. I have to steal something from her. I can't have this. But gents, thank you very much for your time. It has been wonderful. I will definitely have you all on again. Well, hopefully, Craig will be able to have you all again. Hopefully,
League One.
We'll both be in League One to do it.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and take care. And we will see you on the next one, which should be, I don't even know what day we're on. I'm hoping to get a special this week. If not, it will be next Sunday. But yeah, take care, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers, Mike. See you.
United!